bit of an arm wrestle for the first 3 quarters, but then you guys really pushed away, and and Adam agreed the weight of numbers in your favour just decided the game. How do you sort of see it?
Yeah, I thought early on it was a struggle. I mean, to Richmond's credit, they were up for the game, and we clearly needed a response from our guys. It was a little bit of a challenge out there tonight, holding your feet. It was a bit greasy, and the ball was a bit of a challenge to sort of contain. But I thought we hung in there really well, but it took, as it often is for us, it's took us a while to grind away, and that's not the worst thing for us, because we know we're not the finished product, we're not where we want to be as a team, but we've got to continue to keep taking steps forward towards that. And the grind is part of that, and it certainly was a grind for 3 and a bit quarters tonight.
Brad, you came with a lot of intent tonight. I thought that the players really from the outset set the platform and the benchmark, like with their intent to tackle and to put real physical pressure on their opponent. Yeah,
it's a good observation. It was a big focus for us. I didn't think last week we had a lack of pressure. We actually had reasonable pressure, but we weren't able to follow through on that pressure and create turnovers. And on a number of occasions tonight, the pressure and tackling intent forced turnovers, and we were able to. It was probably the difference in us being able to score. So it wasn't a perfect night for lace out delivery to forwards, but I think it's a good observation. The intent was good.
And show the numbers with the contested ball and the uncontested ball as well. You were able to not only win on the inside, but then flip it onto the outside as well.
Yeah, I agree with that, but it took us 3 quarters to get there. So a lot of those numbers looked okay, but Richmond defended pretty well, and it wasn't until the last quarter that I thought we could break that open and get the ball on the outside more often.
How did you see that mid-forward connection? You said it wasn't a perfect night for lace-out kicks, but it felt quite fumbly for the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, the ball was clearly pretty slippery, so it was going to be more of a contested night, and the ability to take our opportunities was going to be really important. But we continue to build with whether it's Nate Caddy or Isaac Kako or Archer Day Wicks, who is out of the team this week, but those guys haven't played any footy together really. So it's a work in progress, but another step forward tonight.
Did Angus Clark exceed your expectations?
No, I don't think he did, which is saying something. We've seen what he's been able to do at training and through the VFL. I think the VFL program have done a terrific job getting him ready to come in and perform at AFL level. And while clearly we've had some challenges on the availability front, we don't want to bring players in unless we feel they're ready to play. And we felt Angus was ready. We had a role for him, and he came in and executed as we thought he would. Did we think the outcome in terms of the results and 3 goals and all of that? Probably not, but in terms of his effort and intent to execute the role, he did exactly as we thought he would.
I mean, as Brad alluded to, you guys have sort of got this ability to grind out results. I mean, most of you have sort of got that feel about it. When you get in that situation, just sort of, guys like yourself and Zach and obviously, Andrew as well, do you sort of, sense out there when you're in that situation to really set into it like that now?
Yeah, I think it's our sort of responsibility as leaders of this club to have a calm head out there and sort of lead these boys who haven't had the experience so far. But when you have leaders like Zach and Andy, it's really easy to follow them. They lead by example and lead with action. So sort of my duty and Redders and Langford as well to sort of follow their suit. But it's an interesting one because would I like the game to be sort of sealed at 3/4 time? I'd love to, but the reality is it's a tough competition, so we don't expect to roll teams over, and I think it's a strength of our group how resilient we are.
Sam was pretty instrumental tonight as well, just having him in the middle at his best.
Yeah, he was so good. I love playing with Sam and how combative he is, and especially sort of after last week we sort of wanted a response in our pressure and intent and tackle, so he set the scene as well as Caldwell. Perkins as well went inside, so they were great. But Durham, his ability to go inside out is really second to none.
Nick, what did you think of Angus's game?
Yeah, it was a great debut, that's for sure. As Scotty sort of alluded to, we sort of knew what he was capable of as a footballer. We've sort of seen it in the VFL, but he's such a hard-nosed player from the country that we really love, and he's a young Redman, we sort of call him. He's from the same sort of area, and he's always wants to learn, which is a great trait to have, and he's curious, so we love that about him. But the way to come in and he just said to the boys, clear the 50, I've got this, boys, let me have it.
He's almost on track to break your debut goal hole at stage, wasn't he?
I sort of said to him, mate, 3s and 5, but good effort. No, he was, to get 3. It's funny because sort of in the VFL, he's got those chances, he just hasn't put them away, so he chose a great night to do it.
You can play at either end, I think. Brad, is that something that you need to look at over the next couple of weeks, given what's happened tonight and maybe concerns for Zach Reid and Carl Langford?
Yeah, I held the coaching group back a little bit post-game. We need to, as I said, there's going to be challenges, but this is what we're here for. I mean, this is a coaching opportunity for us. We need to think differently. We may need to recast some players in different positions, but the key is how we coach that and get them ready for that. So, it's not just a matter of moving the magnets. It's about preparing players to play, slightly different roles. And, of course, we don't want to lose players to injury, but, 6 debutants so far this year and likely more to come. We like what we've seen from, some of our draftees and some of our other untried players in the VFL. So, we'll certainly all be there tomorrow night having a look, and it'll be a busy week. Short turnaround, mid-season draft. A lot of work to do.
Do you have a take on how close your boys are? Any idea about the severity of their injuries?
Yes, I mean, Zach Reid, we're not even sure it's an injury. But when the medical staff say, look, Reid's, can almost sense something with his hamstring, right? He feels something. We just have no choice at this stage of his career with his injury history. We just, took him off and ruled him out. Fingers crossed with that one, but we won't be able to update or give you a conclusive answer until we've had a scan. Probably the same with Langford in terms of we'll need a scan, but I mean, when you feel your quad kicking, especially kicking from outside 50, it'd be hard to believe he hasn't got a quad strain. So that'll be what it'll be. But more optimistic with Reid, but concerned about Langford.
Given their respective histories with soft tissues, do you think, regardless of what happens, you might have to take a pretty conservative approach just to make sure? We for a whole host of reasons, for them individually, but also for the availability of our team. So it's, but as I said, that it's not, it's like you always, you're devastated for the players involved that are injured. The tough thing about this game is you need to show the right amount of empathy to those players, but then move on as a head coach really quickly. And for our club, we are trying to take steps forward to being the team that we want to be, and part of that is exposing young and new players into our team. So and we just couldn't be happier with the players who have made their debuts so far this year, and we've got to find more. Given obviously internally you don't really probably listen to the external, pre-season, not many probably people had Essendon up in the top half of the league. You find yourself 6 and 4 at the moment. You mentioned all the injury duress that you've had to deal with. I mean, have you sort of exceeded your own expectations to this point of the season at least? To be 6 and 4.
Yeah, I think I understand the question. I just don't think that way. We're just trying to build. We've been, as Nick mentioned, we've been resilient. We pride ourselves on it. We've won some close games. I think that's a good foundation from which to build. But my focus and the coaching group's focus is preparing this team for the team they want to be. And I said repeatedly that we set the game up to try and win every game we play. And so anything's possible in this competition. But we don't have goals in terms of win-losses to the halfway point of the year or anything like that. The result is just what it is. We've got to focus on what we're trying to build.
Last one. About Nick Cox and his concussion battles. How's it going personally?
Yeah, it's so disappointing and frustrating and challenging for him. But I said to him pre-game in the rooms that that football is really important. We play in this unbelievable competition, but there are things that are more important, and we'll just give Nick all the time that he needs, and we're hopeful that he'll get back soon, but we just won't compromise his health. And the game's taken great strides forward in that regard. I was sort of told during the week there have been a number of players that have been forced into retirement through concussion. Is that a bad thing? Well, 20 years ago that didn't happen. So we put players at risk for the rest of their lives, and I think it's actually a positive in my view, because we're identifying it and looking after the players better than we ever have.
Who do you reckon you might go for?
We'll try and finalise that on Monday. Really important round of footy this weekend. But yeah, we'll let the baker bake the bread, and the recruiters will tell me who they think are the best players, and I'll have an opinion, but it's not as informed as theirs.
Thanks, guys.
Great.